So now let's start to make Breakout. We're going to take and use what we've created in Pong previously and use some of the same assets to eventually make a scene that looks something similar to this. We're going to have blocks at the top, a ball, and then a paddle at the bottom. So let's get started. So with our Pong level open, the first step we need to do is take a copy of this level. So I'm going to go up to File, do a Save Scene As, and save it as Breakout. Now notice when you save it, at the top here of our Unity window, it should say breakout.unity, which is each of our levels open. So we want to make sure we are in breakout.unity. So the next step then is to kind of modify some of our things that we have. First off, our net. I'm going to do a command delete to delete the nets. We don't need the net images anymore. And then I'm going to have you just pick one of the paddles, either the right or left, and use that to use as our bottom paddle, and then we'll use the other paddle as like the start of our blocks. So I'm going to use the right paddle, and I'm going to move it down here, kind of in the center. And the paddle needs to be rotated. So I'm going to click this rotation tool up at the top. I'm going to grab it and rotate it or start to rotate it because maybe I don't know what the axis to rotate on is. So I rotate it and then I come over here and I figure out, oh, it's the z-axis that is what needs to be rotated. And on a circle, we need to rotate it 90 degrees to be exactly straight across. And then I might come in and zoom in here on the paddle and go back to the transform tool, kind of make it a skinnier paddle. So just grab the edge. If you need to make it longer, you can. That's fine. And then I'll just set it to 0 and then probably go to the move tool here, maybe move it down more towards the bottom, something like that. Next step will be this paddle here on the left. We want to do the same thing. So rotate in the 90, but in our case, I'm going to make it just a little smaller widthwise like this so that it is more of like a block. And then I'll just kind of move it up to the top here, kind of seeing where I place it. Lastly, the ball. We can take this ball. I'll go to the move tool here, move it down. Also go back to the transform tool. If you hold shift, you can scale the ball down so it's a little bit smaller and kind of get it placed at 0 and something like -3 per se, just whole numbers as our location. Lastly, our canvas, Breakout is only a one player game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete one of my text components and actually then put it in the center, something like this, and that will keep track of our score for how many blocks that we run into. So the next step would be do some project management here. I'm going to click on this paddle, one of my paddles in here, figure out which paddle it is. Paddle 1 is my red paddle. I'm actually going to rename it to block. Also, since it is a paddle, we no longer need the paddle script attached to it. So I'm going to click this gear on the paddle script and hit remove component so that now it is just a plain paddle block object. Now we need a lot of these blocks. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate them and then position them how we want them. So I'm going to actually use the move tool here and hit Command D to duplicate. Now, I could very simply grab it here like this and try to line it up so that there's no gap, kind of like that, right? And it looks good. But instead, what I'm actually going to do is Control Z, go back. After I duplicate, there is a way to snap things in Unity. And that is to hold the V key for the vertice. So when I'm in this move tool and I hold the V key down, I can now hover over these vertices. and I can select one and then move it to another vertice of another object. So in our case, I want this vertices, these two, to be matched up with these two vertices. So what I'm going to do is hold the V key, grab, click and hold, and then hover over to the right. And as you can see, it snaps right to it. Now I can Command D duplicate this again, hold the V key, snap it over, kind of zoom out here, and hold the V key again, duplicate, hold the V key again, snap it over, duplicate, hold the V key again, snap it over, duplicate, hold the V key again, snap it over. And I get something close like this. I can go back, kind of select the blocks here, and then maybe center them like this just by shift selecting, or drag and select too. You can drag and select and move them around. And then, so I'm going to select all of them, move them around, and then I can just do the same thing. With all of them selected, Command D duplicate, then hold the V key and just select one of the top vertices, click, and drag it down. So then it snaps down. Command D duplicate again, hold the V key on one of these vertices, snap down. Command D duplicate, hold V, snap down. So now I have like rows, and you can have as many rows as you want. I'm going to stop here for now so that we can do the next step. So the next step from here is red blocks are boring. So let's do different colors. So I'm going to shift or Command or Shift select different objects, and I can actually come in here, maybe just do something like this. And I'm going to change the color. Instead of red, we'll go to blue. And click these randomly. And instead of red, go to green. So you can play around with what blocks you want, selecting on the screen or selecting on our list. The hard part is our canvas kind of overlays here. So if you need, so as you can see, I'm selecting the canvas. If you want, you can actually uncheck that to hide the canvas. So you can just Command or Shift select randomly random objects, get the color, set it to maybe yellow, select some more. Okay, use as many colors you want. We'll do purple for one, something like that. So get this set up like that, and turn our canvas back on. And then lastly, our ball shouldn't kind of match the block, so let's just make our ball, we'll put it back to white. And our paddle as well should not really match any of the blocks, so let's just make it like a dark gray. And that is our Pong scene.